ביולמו דברוכי רוסי וימליך מלכוסי בחייכון ויומכון.
Hello.
All right, we're online. We're here, we're back, we're reading, we're podcasting. It's Book Pod. Is that right?
I don't know what it is anymore.
Yeah, who knows? My mind is lost a little bit.
Book Pod sounds as good as anything else. Yeah.
So we're reporting on, after a longish study time, a longish break to read. What is it?
Complete Idiot's Guide to the Talmud.
Yeah, to the Talmud. And this was just a kind of a joke. I had no idea what the Talmud was. I know the Torah is something. I know, synagogue is something. But I don't know. I just saw it online.
You didn't know, but now you know. You know more than you ever dreamed you would know.
Yeah, and that's a good phrase, because it's just so mind-boggling. I was really boggled. My mind was boggled by, I'm going to say, of the books like we've read, this is one of the more major ones, and it's kind of an idiot's reference book, but I'm still I was like, wow, I was not expecting this at all.
Well, I think it's, I kept, as I was reading it, and this was written by a Jewish educator whose job it is to, educate people about the Talmud, I think. And I kept thinking, as I was reading this, I kept thinking of Aristotle, because it's the same concept. It's the same. It is the same. So Aristotle wrote those ethics lectures to enable young men to learn to live a good life, to be happy, to live a good life. And this is the same thing. The Talmud is designed to, I think this is a core feature of Judaism, know what God expects of me. I mean, oddly enough, couple of days, last week, I guess it was, the Saturday movie on PBS was Fiddler on the Roof. And so I turned it on. I didn't watch it all, but I did turn it on. And Tevye's first song after tradition, or maybe it's part of tradition, was, we have a way of doing things. We all cover our heads, and we all know who we are and what God expects of us. And this is exactly what the Talmud does. It is a core belief, I think, of Judaism, based on my reading of this, that the good intentions of Jews is to find out what God expects of him and to live accordingly.
Yeah, and that's a good, that was one, let's say that's the first thing my first moment was that, you got the Torah, that's a scroll of the old stories of the, the original chosen people who are God's characters, and that is the word of the Lord. I think that's like, yep, that's straight from God. Who wrote it down? Don't worry about that. But this is no one messes.
Now
with
we
this.
know it was Moses. Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah, also called the Pentateuch. So I think that my education was a little bit more classical than yours, especially, even though we both went through Catholic school, mine was, started pre-60s and yours is post-60s. And that makes an enormous difference. But I know a lot of these, not the Jewish, not the Hebrew words, but I know a lot of these concepts because, Catholicism just continued the tradition of Judaism totally with so much. I found so many bells rung from Catholicism to Judaism.
Yeah, those
So
first
ahead.
5 stories, I thought, I guess, yeah, you grow up knowing these are stories from people wrote them down, and yeah, not everyone could write, so somebody had to do it. So it's but even as a boy, when it was like an angel, like Mormonism or whatever, an angel inscribed things, like it just were directly into a readable format from God. I'm like, okay, we don't think that. We know as like a 4th grader, I was like, we know somebody heard this thing and wrote it down. And but I just want to say that yeah, the Torah to them, to the Jews, or maybe the most conservative ones, like yeah, this is God's words, like from him. And then the Talmud, these are the humans' commentary on that. And that was a big distinction, where you got the holy word, which is necessary for religions, and then this is our best minds on that. And it's totally an enormous accumulation of notes and commentary and arguments, all like managed and wrangled together.
It's amazing, really, when you think about it, because what amazed me in the opening chapters, because I kind of know the story of Moses, and kind of a classic hero myth story. He was born a Hebrew. He was born a Hebrew, and the Pharaoh, fearing this cultural strength of the Hebrews that were in Egypt at the time, and our author says they would not assimilate. Well, my understanding is they were slaves. They were captured slaves. Anyway, Moses is born a Hebrew at the time when the Pharaoh decided to kill all the sons of the Hebrews in Egypt. And so his mother hid him in a basket and put him in the river. And who finds him but, of course, the Pharaoh's daughter? So he grows up in the royal house, in the royal household, unknown to everybody. But he had this inkling, he had this feeling of sympathy toward the Hebrews. And at one point, he killed an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew, and then he fled Egypt. And then it all comes out, I think, that he's actually a Hebrew. So he has this mission to get his people, the Hebrews, out of Egypt. So what amazed me was that as they're out in the desert and Moses goes up on Mount Sinai to get the 10 Commandments, not only does he get the 10 Commandments from God, but the author says they had a nice chat, Moses and God. And so this whole, these oral laws were also given to Moses. And all of this, the 10 Commandments and the oral laws, all encompassing and complete. I mean, literally, they believe from God's mouth to Moses' ear is Hebrew scripture. And that is what's interpreted in the Talmud.
Yeah, things were passed down orally. They're and even I was like, okay, this is still in that mythical area, right? We're not really believing this, but yeah, he keeps going. No, that is what happened. They were talking about it, and they all just kept talking, and then then it once the idiot's book crosses into, so then in 300 BC under Emperor whatever, the Romans, right, they're around, and I'm like, oh wait, this is now into real history. It's like, oh,
Well,
as the Jews were messed with constantly, they said, okay, if only the elders know all these things, and we're getting messed with, we have to like get everybody to write this all down for our own sakes. And I thought, oh, that's a good idea. And writing is expensive, takes time and money, and so we all just have to do it. And that reminded me of there's this thing now, this Bitcoin, and how blockchain, that's a hip word where every transaction is saved into a universal network that is not it's not housed in any one computer that can be hacked. It's like it's everywhere constantly. And so it seemed like they were like, we can't just have our stories housed in these people. We have to all learn it all the time, forever. And I know, wow, that's a good idea. So
It is a great idea.
So yeah, and I liked that when they talked about, you have this legendary Rabbi Akiva and whatever, who were the first writers of the Talmud, the beginnings of it for that purpose, because the Romans were being jerks like constantly. So that's when I was like, oh, I can't, the oldest thing I can think of is the Greeks with Socrates and Plato, where we luckily have texts that are recovered, written by Plato and Aristotle, that survived by miracle, because even the intros to those books are like, well, the legend is that some Roman collector had them and they were lost, and then some like grandson had them, and then luckily we have like a portion of Plato's writings, but most of them are gone. But this is like I don't know, that same period of ancient history that
it's earlier actually.
Yeah, it must be, I don't know. Socrates is like, I think he's like in the 300s BC.
Socrates is like 460. I had to look this stuff up. 469 to 399 BCE. Plato 427 to 347 BCE, and Aristotle 384 to 322 BCE.
Okay.
So I think it's even earlier.
Yeah, I would again, I'm even skeptical saying, I'm like, that can't be. I'm like, come on, but yeah, it's like, I guess it is. They knew to get their act together, that we still don't do. Today we're like, we don't need to know that. But they're like, no, our tradition is we need to know everything all the time and review it
from all time. Yeah. But it's not just everybody needs to write this down. It was put, it's very hierarchical, and it's put into the hands of the sages, the educated and smart rabbis who would. One of the other descriptions of this Talmud is that it is an exercise in debate and logic and that kind of thing. And so it's not just open to everybody. It's not open to women, for instance, and it's not, it's not really open to all men. They have to pay their dues and ascend this very difficult, admittedly difficult text, reading the Talmud. So they put that history in the hands of the smartest people, and that's good. That's part of the genius. Not just that they needed to write this down and they needed to make sure they kept this record, but that they put it in the hands of the smart people.
Yep. Yeah, another name the name I was searching for is Hillel. He was one of the earliest rabbis who, I've heard that name all over the place, like I don't know, he's something. But it's funny, this book was funny because I'm blown away by this ancient foresight, but then the demonstrating passages about, so you got two guys in a boat and they say, teacher, what is should I keep my chicken outside or inside? And the teacher's like, well, you should keep it outside, of course. It's like, yeah, but it's raining and it'll die. It's like, well, but, don't worry about that. Or I would be mystified by the reasoning of the teacher, and I would still be like, wait, what? And so the writer's like, so as you can see, Rabbi, Gamliel knew that God would protect the chicken. And I'm like, wait, what? So I'm like, oh, but I would be persuaded. I'm like, okay, well, if you say so, because that originating logic of everybody write and learn but then what we're writing and learning, I'm like, what is he talking about? And,
Right.
And
Because go ahead.
but then as the writer's like, so yeah, if you feel confused, that's normal. It's because you're a beginner or whatever. And I'm like, well, that sounds like typical religion. Don't worry as we fool you. But I'm like,
it
wait.
does.
I'm like, wait, what? So it was a strange. I was wanting to be, I was okay. I'm on board. But
You were waiting to be enlightened.
the passages that the writer chose were like, what? Like I
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about.
That's the difficulty because, the examples that they gave here was a given set of circumstances and 3 different conclusions could logically be drawn. And I mean, logically could be drawn because I think in the examples that I looked at, assumptions were made. Assumptions were made about the circumstances that maybe likely, maybe logical, but you can make equally likely and equally logical different events or details in the given circumstances as well. So this idea that it's an exercise in logic and debate and that kind of thing is kind of, I felt rationalization for the murkiness of the whole thing.
Yep. And yeah, it's funny. There's so many not contradictions, but just reasonings where
contradictions as well. Yeah.
But one was like, we need to argue everything. Everything needs to be re-examined, and we all need to just uncover new insight at all times, because that's how we keep our minds sharp, and that's the practice. On the other hand, we need to just decide everything. So if your cow is in the throes of dying of natural causes, you cannot eat. You can't kill it. I don't even know. I'm making it up. But
if it's on the Sabbath, on the Sabbath of the full moon, it is heavily law laden.
And it's funny because I was with both of those. I'm like, yeah, you need to know, you need to keep realizing that, what is this again? What is it? But on the other hand, yeah, can we just decide this so we don't have to talk about this again? Like when I have to learn how to set up this podcasting stuff, it was such like a shitstorm of other apps and turn off this app and Google searching of like, you need to update this. So yeah, you're flailing for like, can this just be decided and done? Because I don't want to have to.
And can it just be universal? Can it just be always this way?
Yes. So I'm like, yeah, but you do kind of have to keep doing this. Stay ahead of the software. You have to keep remembering what is the purpose of this? Oh, right. Yeah, that. And then that way I can tell you how to do it. But if someone just did it for me, or if it was one click and then something changed in my PC, I'd have no idea what the hell I'm supposed to do. So
that's right.
So the Talmud was, or this idiot's
internet
guide.
of its day. The internet of its day. So as I start to set up today with all these instructions that you've given me, and which, by the way, I have written down and annotated again and again and again, I look for the USB port for the microphone. Bingo, new laptop, no USB port. So what do? I don't go to the Talmud. I go to the internet. No USB port on my new MacBook Air. Then I see there's an adapter. And I'm sure Michael told me that there was an adapter that I had to get, but I just didn't even think about it. And then logging onto Discord, new computer, I think that was the difficulty of the new computer. I was able to use the same password eventually, but it was a bit of a minefield.
Yep. And yeah, that's a good point about the information is there. You have to just study it, where even I think about, maybe I should get a master's, or maybe I could get like a PhD in something. But then it's like, why would you just, all books are there and all lectures are on the internet. You could literally learn about anything for free. Like professors just talk, or podcasts about any topic is there.
Yeah, you can learn anything, but if you want to take that and sell it, if you want to make yourself marketable, then having the degree is the valuable asset, because you can take that with you wherever you go. If you want to get a job spouting or doing those lectures online or whatever you want to do. The difficulty with what I come up against again and again and again in reading this book. First of all, it is so heavily laden with laws. That's very difficult for me. But my thinking process was this. Problem with everything, the sticking point in this whole exercise is that they believe that God gave the laws to Moses complete. And those laws are complete. So not only are they complete, but they came from God. So what are you going to do with that, right? And how can some laws become obsolete? And what are you going to do about cell phones? Because I don't think Moses had one, right? So it's occurred to me that, in the United States, we're having this current, which I think is entirely hypocritical, but there do seem to be a couple of schools of thought about the Constitution. So one team seems to treat it as holy writ, unchangeable, and we have to understand the intentions of the founders and not stray from the intentions of the founders. And so they have a historical perspective in their Supreme Court decision making based on what they believe are the intentions of the founders. Other people believe, hey, it's a man-made document. It's open to error. It is adjustable. We have to adjust it to evolve it so that it can fit modern day circumstances, right? And that's only a couple of hundred years old. We're not talking, millennia here. So what happens when you have a document that, one, comes from God, and two, is final and complete in the Stone Age, or from the Stone Age? What do? Well, maybe you get a group of scholars together, and maybe this is happenstance, not designed, but maybe you get a group of scholars together to interpret and reinterpret and overinterpret and, in their humblest way, try to understand what God's intention is in this law. And the rest of it is just mystery, right? Well, it's a mystery. That's how you can keep the document alive.
Yeah, it's a crazy balance where God's the father, we're the kids, we're not, as we're subservient, we're lower than God, but he did give us the power to like figure stuff out. So
right?
It's like, well then, if he did that, that's from then it's our duty to puzzle over everything, and that is almost like the counterpoint to, well, no, we can't all just be passive passengers on the earth waiting just to go to heaven. We have to be always not checking what he meant, finding the mistakes or whatever, but just being like, we have to use our reasoning to uncover deeper meanings and stuff. So stuff like where, well, yeah, God said you may slaughter a cow, but how do we do that? Oh, well, how is something like you do not drag the knife across the neck. You must. It was like I was like, oh, okay, so yeah, somebody had to think about that. You don't. How do we kill the cow and stuff? So, and then yeah, of course, some things were totally just based on needs of the time. I thought, because the whole thing about kosher foods, you can't eat cloven hoofed animals, or no, that's pigs. Cow is okay.
And
Cow is okay. That's one hoof. And because well, when it's cut, it has two little toenails. That's a pig.
See, you're nitpicking, which is what happens with you when you start to analyze, well, exactly how deep do we put the knife in, and in what direction do we need to strike, and yeah.
Wait, what? No, that is a thing. A cloven hood is where a hoof is where it's split in two,
Uh-huh.
and a single is like the one, yeah, nail, the one,
Yeah, like a
like a
horse.
horse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why they don't eat pigs. But it made me think of the Guns, Germs, and Steel, where the early humans who were sure, we're having lots of babies because we're not hunting and gathering anymore. We're like raising animals, but we're all getting diseases and mutated viruses that jumping over to humans. Someone said, okay, obviously, look at it. The pig is just living and it's shit. So we can't. We're dying from that. So we're gonna get away from that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that there's often a practical reason for these ritualistic and verboten sort of what do we want to call them, like kosher stuff and stuff like that. There's often a practical reason for enforcing these kinds of laws. Sure.
But well, yeah. Now I'm even thinking like, isn't sheep cloven? What about that? Is goat kosher? Can they eat that? I don't know. Oh boy.
Well, I think kosher has to do with the preparation as well, and this sort of anathema to blood I was surprised by that never touch blood.
Oh, I got it. Here we go. Okay, so you got
Okay.
two things. Cloven hoof is no, and wait. Oh, something about chews its cud, like eats its food.
Mhm.
Eating the food slowly, like a ruminant, which is what a cow
Yes,
is, where grass is
that's right.
just munched forever. That's safe. So a goat or sheep or deer, those do have split hooves, but because it's like a grass eater and just munches forever, okay, that's safe. But a pig, I guess, is cloven and just eats whatever, eats like anything, eats garbage or dead bodies or anything. That is no. So it has to be those two things together is what makes a kosher animal to eat. Okay, there we go. We solved it. I solved it.
Well, but when you have another thought that I had about this as I was completing this is when you have such a rule-laden culture, then the rules become more important than the purpose of the rules themselves. Form takes precedence over substance sometimes, so that you have dangers of enforcing the letter of the law rather than the spirit of the law. You have people that nitpick and pull apart and become petty about minor infractions of the law when you need to sort of understand, if you're able, the purpose of the law. So why can't we eat that? Why can't we mix this and that? Well, we just don't, because it's the law from God. And so you're just backed into a corner with this situation of the laws coming from God and the laws being complete as at delivery, and all you're left with is you have to go to learned men and see if they can find a way around it, or a way of reckoning the discrepancies or the contradictions in the law, and give me some guidance that way.
I could be on board with it though if even 100 years ago, a human just could die from like anything and they don't even know why. Or even older before that, you might live to like 50. So and these people in ancient times and even not so ancient, they're seeing death like every day all around them all the time, which is, I guess, yeah, the necessity. Just to put up with life, you need some kind of upside through God or heaven's coming. And so we can say like, oh, but come on, like, you get sick from eating bacon, you just you take a medicine, or it's not so bad. But when they see fever 100 years ago, he's got the fever. It's like, well, he's not going to make it. So if they were like, look, you guys, we're getting messed with by governments, let alone viruses and whatever. So just don't touch the goddamn lobster. I mean, it's just if you can get it from the ocean and immediately eat it, okay, but who's going to do that? We catch it and we're going to bring it to the market or whatever. Then the clock is ticking. Once it's dead,
That's right. We got to cook it, man.
Yeah, no refrigerators. It's like just stop. No more of that. Okay, I'm putting an end to this. There's no more shellfish. It's just
You're just going to get rid of them all. All right, everybody's staying after school because the person that did it won't fess up. That's that hierarchical blanket rule that worked at that time. And it worked in the Catholic Church for years and years and years and years. You have to go to church on Sunday. You can't eat food before you have communion. You have to you have to, and all these rules, heavily rule laden. Problem is, and so as I was reading this, it was insightful for me to consider what changed, and what changed was the Reformation. The Reformation was a very democratizing event, in that the Protestants were, number one, of course, fighting against the corruption of the Catholic Church and the selling of indulgences. That's what we learned was the tipping point there. But it's also about removing the middleman between man and God. And it was with the Reformation that the Bible then could be translated into vernaculars and everybody could learn to read. And then you can have a personal relationship with God yourself. You don't have to go through priests. You don't have to go through rabbis. And so this kind of empowerment, because if you're the middleman between man and God, you got the power, right? And so this democratization of things sort of makes that tradition much harder to hold. And the same is true later, or just kind of on the heels of it maybe, is the Enlightenment. And the Enlightenment did the same thing. And this was the philosophical school that Thomas Jefferson came from when he wrote the Declaration of Independence and what followed the Constitution. And so democracies are antithetical to this kind of hierarchical, traditional, learned history and culture. And so what you have in the United States is people saying, vaccine? I don't need no vaccine. Don't tell me what to do. It's the same thing. So this is why it's astonishing to me that in the United States and in modern day and in the United States in particular, Judaism could survive at all, because the philosophical and religious institutions are just sort of antithetical to it.
It is amazing. Like the Romans, they said, okay, you this is ours now, and whatever gods you have going on, that's over, so stop doing that and you will die, or we'll kill you. And so people are like, well, all right, I'd rather be alive. I'll worship whatever lucky person you want. I mean, my guy was unlucky because here we are. So yeah, what do you got? And the Jews were like, yeah, we're not going to do that, and we'll do it in secret, as we have done. We'll do it in secret. We don't care. Like, we don't need all that. We just have to hold on to these stories. And even the Romans were like, I heard somewhere or read somewhere, like, yeah, even the Romans were like, wow, that's some ancient stuff. So okay, you can do that, but you have to pay money. They're like, fine, whatever. So yeah, they're used to just getting persecuted, which, and even at my Christian or Catholic elementary school, persecuted means kind of I just think of the word when like Jesus is walking and people are like shouting at him, like, hey, like, you stink. But really, it's just everything. It's just, we'll blow up your buildings. It really means they were terrorized. We'll take your money. We'll just kill you if we feel like it, and we'll kick you out of your country. You'll have to go somewhere else. And I mean, that'll probably kill you, right? So we don't have to do it. But no, they will just keep surviving. So that's why, yeah, I'm on board with, yeah, of course, democracy and liberalism is where, hey, you don't tell me what to do, I can do what I want. But when you're just under fire perpetually for thousands of years, it's like, yeah, and I can see that, yeah, the men's job is learn the stories, and the women's job is, well, without other members, we're done anyway. So the women is make the babies, care for them, and that's a full-time job. So we got to do this other, we have to learn this too. And it's so it kind of yeah, I was sympathetic to Jew before, but now I'm like, Jesus. It's like man, it's just
Ironic.
relentless.
Yes. So I think one of the pillars of, or one of the foundations or legs, or whatever you want to say, of Judaism is that concept of persecution. And there are, I've seen, in documentaries, or maybe they were in dramas, some of the prayers that are said in some sects of Judaism is never forget the persecution, never forget so that is a pillar of the faith, I think, in some sects of Judaism, as I understand it. And, I think the Catholics try to do that too with the martyrs. I mean, I just see so much carrying on of Jewish tradition, from sacrifice to, the human sacrifice of Jesus, and, purgatory, and, the Ten Commandments, and going on with Jesus in the New Testament. Another thing so I think that it's phenomenal that Jews have survived, as long as they have, given the changes in cultures that have occurred and the relentless persecution. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And the huge influence that Judaism has had on all cultures globally is amazing to me. Because early on in this book, I think it was on page 15, the author wrote that Judaism's core beliefs are based on two things. God is an absolute unity. I thought was an unusual word, but, God is an absolute unity. Moses is his prophet. And if you think about Islam, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. So that kind of echoing of those core beliefs, I think, is throughout most religions that are based at least on Judeo-Christian traditions, which I think makes a strong argument makes a strong argument for the consideration that God was invented by human beings rather than the other way around, that everybody came up with the same thing, seems to me a unifying aspect of human nature.
It's funny, I thought when you were going to say, you kind of make sense. You said, yeah, it makes sense. I thought you were going to say, it makes sense why they had to get rid of Jesus. I mean, you can't go saying that you are God.
Oh, yeah.
That's, yeah, I don't know why I thought that's what you were going to say. But like, yeah, that's what Jesus did. He's like, yeah, I am
the disturber. Yep.
I am Jewish, but I'm actually him. I am him. So you all need to worship me. And they were like, what? You need to get out of here. Are you out of your mind? Like, that would be, shockingly outrageous.
Yeah. So they're still waiting. They're still waiting for the Messiah.
Yeah. And it's funny, if you imagine Jesus like, yeah, I'll take anybody. I'll take the poor people. I'll take, lepers and prostitutes. And the other Jews are like, what are you doing? Like, what? Like, we're trying to get these Romans out of here. What in the hell? This, what? Get him out of here. I want to even talk about how, I went to Catholic school, and there were some Jewish kids around, I guess, but they were not traditional, or it's just part of their family. But then I went to college in Philadelphia. That's when I met my guitar teacher. He's from Connecticut, and he was his parents must, I don't actually know, but his parents must be in that generation during the wartime. And he was like the most strict teacher ever, and would just tell it like it is, and we all would just like weep to each other where he's like so mean to us. And we all had local guitar shop teachers, and he would say like, look, I get paid either way. You want to come and show me something? I'm here. That's what I have on my calendar. You got nothing. Get out of my house. He would just
Yep.
he would throw us out after like 5 minutes if he could tell that we just didn't practice anything. He's like, I write down 1 hour. So whether you want to do anything with it, it's up to you. I don't care. I literally have a version of you every year.
Yep.
So yeah, that's it. Actually, you got to get out of here right now. Why am I even why am I talking? And we would be like, why is he like this? Or one guy's like, I demand to have another teacher. And the school's like, we don't have another guitar teacher. And so he just totally shaped us to the real deal. So he was really hardcore. And when I hear Larry David on Curb Your Enthusiasm, how he's just so direct, I think of him. Or Howard Stern I listen to. He's just like argues with people about like everything. I totally hear that tradition. And then also lastly, when I was in my last year of college, I did a real estate internship, and my guy I worked for was a I want to say he was Hasidic Jew, and he was a young man. He had a little small beard, already married with like 4 kids, and his father-in-law was a real like New York landlord and developer. And it was 2006 when it was like Philadelphia was exploding with condos and reformed flipped housing, just literally before the global meltdown. And he would tell me things. I'm like, what is it? What's going on with you? I met his son. His son had little curls, and it was really an interesting. I felt really bad when I had to quit because he thought we're gonna make so much money. We're gonna work together, and I got my banking job back in California. I was like sad to tell him.
Yeah, well, it's a different. You were educated. That's all good. That's for me, it was going to Japan. It's you were educated.
Yep. Yeah. So let's see. What do we got? So
the other thing I want to say something else about the fact that in the Jewish tradition, they put they have an elite. They have the rabbis who are the sages, the scholars who are their job is to read and educate themselves and understand the Torah and the Talmud, contribute to the Talmud, try to understand the Talmud. And what the Reformation, removing the middleman from the relationship between man and God, I think not necessarily a bad thing, because the priests were gatekeepers and they were corrupt and they were selling keys to the gate with these indulgences and things like that. Absolutely, being corrupt or being tempted by corruption is definitely a human characteristic. But this idea that, what those stories from the Bible really happened, they believe that they really happened. There is also room for biblical hyperbole. That's what the author said. But when I compare that concept of believing that those books of the Bible actually really happened and are rather historical, I compare those to fundamentalists in the United States, for instance. There is no body of revered and intelligent and educated men or women in that religious institution to offer humble interpretation of the Bible. All they have is their own educated, dumb selves to try and understand what's in the good book, right? So I think that nowadays in the United States, elitism is a dirty word, and woke is a dirty word, and trying to educate yourself and going to college and trying to understand other people is gay, and all they're just denigrated. These ideas are denigrated to no end. I think it's largely because there's no path to follow. Sometimes there's no elite rabbi that you can ask and understand. Maybe this is the way to go, or get a little bit of guidance from this. So, as much as I find, bottom line, this whole Talmud concept and the Jewish, strict religion, really, really nothing else but oppressive. As much as I don't like that, because I'm a liberal American, I can see the value in having an elite that devotes themselves with good intentions, by the way, to understand humbly God's word and maybe share that knowledge with the people.
Yeah, it totally makes sense why they don't proselytize or evangelize. Like we don't just want anybody. I mean, we're making our
The
own
chosen
members.
people.
We make our own, and we train them from birth, and that's how we do it. And then, yeah, cult leaders, they want the most ignorant and just emotionally desperate, and they conflate, spiritual, emotional, and ultimately for the financial. Give me, yeah, we'll do those things for you. Just give us the money. And so Catholicism is like that too. Like, yeah, you feel just lost by your totally confusing life and existence. Sort it out with us. Just do what we say. And communist leaders do that too. They turn to the farmers who are just barely surviving and say, you need to get rid of these landlords and these intellectuals telling you what to do. Get them out. So yeah,
We'll make it simple. Yeah.
So when the Jews insist that if you want to be with us, you have to study constantly, and it's not for the sake of to know it all, because you never will, but we have a leadership. Every body needs a governing group, but you can challenge us. We're just constantly ready for that argument. So it's kind of, that's democracy is Socrates said that too. He's like, are you out of your mind? Just let every random dipshit vote for what our nation should do. That sounds like the stupidest thing you could do. So
yeah, as we have daily proof today in the United States. Absolutely.
So Socrates said that, the republic should be, the philosophers are on top, and they control everything, and until we can give a proper schooling to the regular people, which is tyranny, or you oligarchy. He was pro, I guess, oligarchy on top, as long as the oligarchs are philosophers and learned people.
So the bottom, and what goes along with that is that those people worked their way up, and they're vetted in the trail up, in the climb up. They're vetted. They prove their good intentions, and they prove their morality, and they prove their intellectual capabilities. But when anybody can run, and you can do a mass campaign or social media campaign or commercials that just create a drumbeat in somebody's head, then yes, that's the dilemma that we're in now in the United States.
Yep. And then, so I'm all for that. And then it gets to that late, or the end of the book, it talks about, well, what about Israel and Palestine? It's like, well, that's a good point. But if you go back to the original deal with Noah's son Ishmael, he kind of he didn't do something, so there you go. I mean, the Muslims came from Ishmael. The Ishmaelites were the original Muslims, so they didn't really. So they don't get it. Yeah, of course, their book is pro Israel. It goes back to
not only that, because in that the law from that sort of comes from Noah. I was surprised to read in this book that part of it is to establish Israel. And so I often wondered why Jews in America would give money to Israel. Why was there this willingness to support another country, Israel, even though there's the Jewish connection? But it's because it's in those laws that they are supposed to work toward that. And so they do. That's kind of interesting to me. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's also it's kind of hilarious how, and it makes sense if America is a Christian country and America says, well, Israel has Jerusalem. Jerusalem means Jesus, so yeah, we gotta save that. We gotta help that. And the Israelis are like, great, we don't. That's all bullshit. But well, yeah, go, yeah, we'll accept your help. And so who knows? They're in their circles like these stupid Americans. I mean, we're I mean, yeah, they think we're maintaining their Disneyland when really we're fortifying and surviving over here. So I think Jews support, of course, but Christians also support when, but for reasons that does not align with them. I think
they're playing the long game, maybe, and so at some point they think there's going to be another crusade or something, and they're going to recapture Jerusalem. I don't know what they think, if they think.
I don't know. I heard a podcast too about how prior Israeli leaders were that beard, the vision of like a Jewish rabbi, but that Netanyahu was the suit wearing, shaved, looks like an American person. So that he was like, oh, that looks normal, so we can he looks pretty good. So
it's more understandable in a global, in a global stage, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I heard that recently. But
I'm glad we read this. I think, I mean, it was way too long.
I didn't think it was that hard. I just just keep going.
No, it wasn't hard. No, it wasn't hard. Just long. Not hard. I didn't say hard.
Well, what do you mean long? Like it's it's a lot of stuff.
A lot of words.
I thought it was pretty like, I don't know. I thought it was other ones were harder or longer. I thought the Ministry of the Future was just like a...
Yeah, well, you lost patience with that. I lost patience with this. Because it's based on the premise of this law being from God and being complete, and I have a problem with that from the get-go. And so to continue reading and putting this information in my head just seemed to me, I understand the logistics, I understand the practicalities of it, but, basically the fact that this is some law that, came down from God and is finished and complete in that particular time, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me, because these are men that wrote these stories and they're subject to their cultural biases. And so men continue to study this and they impose their cultural biases on it. And, there's no women involved here. Women don't even count. They're not even involved. And all of the stuff about, well, a woman could study the Talmud, that she could study the Torah if, we're not putting them out entirely. But there was a fear that because they're not educated properly, they might not understand, they might misinterpret. Yeah, of course, because they're treated as, just baby producers, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree, of course, but it's almost like it's not incomprehensible when they're just under fire, even in the last 80 years, where they were literally almost just annihilated from the planet. Or even maybe let's say even before that, like 100 years ago, like they're living in Europe, they're like, it's going pretty good. We're living it up, though. Maybe those days are gone. Maybe we can loosen up. Maybe we can just, hey, your daughters go to school. You can do whatever you want. And then boom, we're all just collected and just murdered, or escape, or you give it up. You emigrate. There's people who left. They moved to like South America or China, and say, we're not Jews anymore. It's not working out. Sorry. And So there's that type, or if the ones that do hang on, they're like, yeah, we have, this is it. We have to keep it going. We don't recruit, so we have to keep the women are this, the men are this, and that's just it.
And it's worked in the past, so it will continue to work because this is a traditional culture. They're always looking backwards for the pathway forward.
Yeah, even if this book said, like, in the Talmud, gay, absolutely not. I'd think, like, well, that yeah, when your population is just getting wiped out perpetually, it's like we need all the bodies to be more. So sorry, that's gonna be a no, a hard no.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hard no. Yeah. Well, it's just
this is America. I should do what I want. That's no. we're you don't even comprehend how anything can just be taken away from us at any time.
That's right. So it's a constant siege mentality. Yes. Yeah.
Larry David says that Larry David now, he's like a billionaire just from purely comedy, and he says that his mother used to say, you know, working at the post office could be a really good job for you. Nobody really knows who you are. You just, well, hello, and yeah, haha, and just, just put the mail in, and that's it. So she would tell him, like, don't get your hopes up.
Right.
That's what she would say. And yeah, it's so funny just because they're all just like traumatized in that.
Well, and it's also
generation.
a traditional culture. So you're looking backwards and you're not innovators. You're not risk takers, that's for sure, because of the history. It's of course the history of persecution plays into that, but also the traditional thing. Let's just keep plodding. It's okay. We'll just keep our heads down.
Yeah.
All right.
But even Larry's mom was like, doctor, you don't need to do that. Don't try to be above anybody. You just do a thing, get the money, and come back to me, your mother, and you stay with me forever, and then we die together.
But you might have known her son very well.
Yeah. And yeah, even yeah, I don't know. It's it's like an unthinkable even recent history. So that's yeah, I don't know about the Torah. That's all still, Greek myths and whatever, but the Talmud is, the people arguing about it. And that's what's kind of funny is how today on YouTube, there's, this YouTube was a thing you just would share videos when I was in college, just of stupid things, like just being an idiot somewhere. Now it's like, it is it. TV is over. It's the main thing. Google bought YouTube for like $2 billion maybe like 15 years ago, and it's just totally paid off. I mean, it could be the best buy in human history, maybe, for how it is the main thing. And there's YouTubers now who make their own stuff. Like, hello, I'm going to teach you how to do this. How do you put a dovetail joint into a housing frame? And then there's other YouTubers who just take that video and comment on it, saying, well, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's using a 3x6, and also he's got the Makita drills, and as we all know, Makita, they is not what they used to be. And so then there'll be another YouTuber who, in response to this guy, I do take umbrage with his comment about Makita because I have worked there for 20 years, and they are absolutely, so it's this like self-recursive not loop, but just like spiral of commentary on something. And it's like, that's, of course, some abuse it, where they're just literally a YouTube consumer and regurgitator with very little additional value add. So but that's what the Talmud is. They're all like, well, this rabbi said this, and well, I have to disagree with this person. And so there's like arguments across time, and that type of if you're in a school, which I forget the word, the Jewish school for them is what? It's do you know what it is?
I can't think of it at the moment now because I'm under pressure. No.
Oh shoot, where
Shiva?
what is it? Yeshiva. Yeah,
Shiva?
where a teacher is presently teaching a classroom of boys about people who lived like thousands of years ago, and it's like you're just crossing time and space. It's like you know, it's just amazing. Although I guess we did that too, but we were learning about Native Americans and Abraham Lincoln, and it's just so like, well, that's not us. That's like dinosaurs. That's a whole different time. But in the yeshiva, I think they teach how like these two people argued about this, and we still do that today.
Yeah, Shakespeare. No, Shakespeare.
Oh, come
King
on.
Lear.
That's just
I'm
like,
not a
that's
king.
like, what
I'm not
is
a
this?
king.
Somebody make this make sense. I mean,
Oh, it makes sense.
put
They're
it into
universal.
speak
A
English.
universal concept.
Yeah, that was the main
My
complaint.
God.
What language is this? Why are we pretending this is
just
normal?
because you're not able to understand it because you didn't study enough. Okay, you need to go to Shakespeare school, not yeshiva. You need to go to Shakespeare school and try to understand it. The universal concepts through time. That's why Shakespeare is who he is, because he stood the test of time. And even stories about kings can apply to me because they are universal human concepts.
Yeah, I know. But
Anyway,
just speak English. Why are you might as well be in like Spanish. It just makes no sense to a student.
you're undereducated. Anyway, you should probably think about, if you're interested in this, is shoot, now I just lost the name of this series. I can't remember it. It's about a young woman who is in Europe, I think, and it's called Unorthodox. That's what it's called. It's a series about this young woman living in an Orthodox community.
Oh, that's
And,
that's in Brooklyn. Yeah, I watched that.
Oh, was it Brooklyn?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
she lives in
really?
she lives in that goddamn neighborhood called something where it's Crown Heights, maybe? It's
I
like
don't know.
it's like a holy Hasidic neighborhood. I
Yes.
can't remember that freaking name. What the hell? I can't remember anything.
One of the episodes is that this, the inside and outside, outside laws, and the wire that would metaphorically enclose the Jewish community, the wire broke, so the women couldn't go to the store, and they couldn't, and so they just didn't go to the store because the wire broke, so they were no longer enclosed. So,
Yeah,
it was amazing.
Is it Williamsburg? I don't know. How does I don't know. But that is in Brooklyn, and she escapes to Germany, I think, where her mother
goes to, so she's from the United States and escapes to, I think, Berlin, not the other way around. Yeah. I think it struck me as so old world that I didn't maintain the idea that it was started in the United States. My God. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, that was my teacher, my mentor, the real estate guy, was like those guys. The father-in-law was from that area, and my mentor lived in a New Jersey kind of enclave called Lakewood or something, which is very Orthodox style. There were times where he cannot touch a woman like ever who's not his wife or his children. So when we would go somewhere, there'd be a female agent or something. They're like, "Oh, hello, my name is," and he goes like just this gesture of like, I can't, I can't, and they were like, "What?" And sometimes I thought I should say something, but he just has to go through this every time. I can't touch ever.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. That's
And
right.
that goes to the Fiddler on the Roof when they're dancing at the wedding, but they're separate. The men dance with the men, and the women dance with the women.
And the handkerchief. Yeah. Right. It's fascinating, and they get a lot of things right. They get a lot of things right, and logical and practical and learned and valuable and good intentions, and all those good vocabulary items came to my mind as I was reading this. But bottom line is oppression, and I'm just too American, I'm too democratic, and I'm too liberal, and too much of a woman to to like it, I guess, is the most mild expression I can say.
Yeah, that's of course. Yeah, you have to separate the system across an unimaginable period of time versus if it was your experience. Yeah, but would you want that? It's like, yeah, well, obviously no. So, but you can say both. Like, yeah, I wouldn't want that. But luckily, yeah, I am a, I can study anything I want, and I am
Yeah,
not under threat at
that's right.
any time. I yeah, I'm not under threat. I have total freedom of movement. I can do anything. I can make money doing lots of things. So yeah, they don't recruit other members. They make their own. So they want their children to marry each other. They use betrothal systems, matchmakers,
Arranged marriages. Mhm.
dowries, or it's all sorted out. So all you got to do is
Right.
do your role
All prescribed.
and just
Right.
and and yeah, it is crazy to think how recent that war was. Even I was thinking how Spielberg, if that Ark of the Covenant in Indiana Jones, that I always assumed that was some kind of Christian thing. It's something Ten Commandments. Yep, that's that's in there. But I don't know about this Ark. I guess I missed that lesson in grade school. But that's totally a
Well, you weren't taught it. Neither was
yeah,
I.
yeah.
Neither was I.
It's a Jewish
Hmm.
story, and I think that movie was Spielberg, right? Or
Yeah, sure. Indiana Jones. Well, yeah, Spielberg. So this book tells us what the Ark of the Covenant is, that Moses made 13 scrolls of the laws, one for each tribe and one for the Ark of the Covenant. And then the Ark of the Covenant disappeared. So it's, they search for the Ark of the Covenant just as people here, a Christian search for the true cross or something like that, or the Holy Grail. That's the Holy Grail of, uh, because it's missing. It's a mystery. Where did it go? Right.
yep. And
Jewish thing. Yeah.
he made Schindler's List, and he made
Yep.
DreamWorks put out Prince of Egypt, which was a pretty
To
big
Egypt. Yep. Mhm.
per our Pixar book, was like a flag planted in the animation sector about this is a the original Jewish story. And so anyway, I thought Spielberg was doing his part to get the word
Doing
out
his bit
there.
for sure. Yeah. 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 And man. Representation is important. Yes. It was enlightening, and ultimately I'm glad it's over, but it was enlightening.
Yep.
And in fact, I don't have a book for the next time because I think I need a little bit of a break.
Uh-oh. Well, no breaks.
Oh, no breaks. Do you have something on the burner?
Yeah, I always got something I could choose. Let's see. I thought let's see. I just finished also for my students here. I did a YouTube series about the old man in the sea, which is really interesting.
Uh-huh. I saw a little. I didn't see anything. I just saw like headlines of that. Yeah.
I have a saved link of a book. It's called The Short Stories by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And you don't want that? Let's see. What is this one? Oh, I also have the book Me, which is Elton John's autobiography.
No.
Or
Okay, so then if we're not going to take a break, which is what I really kind of want, and if we're not going to take a break, then I want to. This is long, but I think it's good, and it's kind of. And Anna tells me it's a series of short stories called The Overstory.
all right.
Now it might have an ecological slant to it. I don't know, and if you're tired of that from the the one we did read, which was about climate change and that kind of thing, you might want to reject it. Otherwise, for something light, Romaine wasn't built in a day. This is the delightful history of food language.
All right.
Read the word Romaine. You want to do this one? Oh my God, it's got pictures. I have just opened it for the first time.
Yep.
And this would just be a nice, light, I hope, read. Okay?
Yep.
I'll do that one.
If you say history, I'm on there.
Okay. This is Romaine wasn't built the day. It's new. It's new this year. And I had to order it. And it is by Judith. Wow. I don't know how you say that name. John.
John, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It's on.
Okay. Romaine wasn't built in the day. And it's short. I think it's got pictures, so that's good.
Yep. If the Talmud teaches us one thing, there's no breaks. Just nonstop, relentless work.
And then I'll save the overstory for when I am renewed in the fall. And we'll think about that Fitzgerald, but he's really dated. But anyway, that's not impossible.
I didn't like The Great Gatsby. I'm like, what is the big deal about this?
And
book?
do you know? And every time I look up 100 best books, 100 best novels, Great Gatsby's at the very top.
Yeah.
I do not get it.
Yeah. Who cares about this? What is this? So anyway, I thought that'd be another one, but I don't even care for him either. But anyway, we'll get on the next one. It is the history of Romaine, or Romaine wasn't built.
Romaine wasn't built in a day.
And we will get back to you all next time.
That's right. Bon voyage.
ויסרימו מיום דינו ביומים אוהים כשבט המלך אחשוורוש על כתבי מלכותו אשר בשושן אדירו ויחב המלך הזה סיר מכל אנושים ותיסו חן וחסד לבונו מכל הבתולות ויושם קיסר מלכות בראשו וימליך